Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Thank God that today in this afternoon we can meet again in the good in health. And as we know that today also we are going to listen the student presentation. And for starting our lecture, let's we saying together basmalah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Today there are many students will present the PPT. Firstly, I would like to give opportunity to Akmal E. Tauhid for presentation his PPT in 5 minutes. Akmal, time issues?
Yes, sir. Okay, thank you.
Please, you on cam, right? Okay, please.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
I want to say thank you to Mr. Wirta and Miss Dian for time. Gedung Sate has a long history that has existed since the Dutch colonial period. So now I'm just explaining the important points. Gedung Sate has its own unique architecture and beauty that is different from other buildings in the city of Bandung. In addition, Gedung Sate has a long history. Standing on July 27, 1920, this building was built during the Dutch colonial era. Even though it is more than 100 years old, this building still stands strong and elegant. Its function as the center of government from the Dutch era or to the present might be one of the reasons why this building is maintained in its condition. Beginning of establishment by the Dutch government, this building was called Government's Bedrijven or GB. Designed by a team of experts from the Netherlands consisting of Ingenieur J. Gerber, a well-known young architect who graduated from the Delft Netherlands Faculty of Engineering, and Ingenieur A.H. D. Pro and Ingenieur G. Hendricks. The construction process was directly handled by Gemeente van Bandung, chaired by Col for VL, source involving 200 works consisting of 1,050 Chinese carvers or bongpai, tombstone carvers, and wood-covered from Confucianism or Canton. Not only that, the 200 workforce also consists of stonemason and coolies who were residents of village around the city of Bandung at that time. First millstone, the laying of the first for Gedung Sate was carried out by Johanna Catherine Forbes, the eldest daughter of the then mayor of Bandung. What is function of Gedung Sate from the beginning until now? Gedung Sate since 1980 has been known as the government office because it is center of event for the West Java provincial government, which previously occupied the Karta Mukti building on Jalan Braga on Braga Street, Bandung. 1 December 2nd, 1945, the Dutch, who had not yet accepted the independence received by the Indonesian people, gathered a number of forces to seize a number of assets from the hands of Indonesia. One of the assets being target.
Akmal, your reading was over. Please unmute your microphone.
Okay, sir. Thank you, Mr.
Okay. Okay. The next presenter is Amelia. Amelia, time is yours in 5 minutes.
Yes, sir. Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Today, I will explain about Bandung in the past. How was like Bandung in the past? Before becoming the big city it is today, back in the 18th century, Bandung was still a forest with only few heads occupying the area and still called Tatar Ukur. It should be noted that the history of the city of Bandung officially began during the colonial rule of the Dutch East Indies. In the 19th century, the city of Bandung was founded by and the royal policy of the regent of Bandung at that time, R.A. Wiranatakusuma II. However, the process of its establishment was accelerated by the order of the 36th Governor General of the Dutch East Indies, Herman Willem Daendels, with a decree on September 25, 1810. So that's why September 25 is considered the anniversary of the city of Bandung. Starting from the Asia-Africa Road, which used to be Jalan Raya Pos, was the beginning of the founding of the city of Bandung. It was here that in 1810, the Governor General of the Dutch East Indies, Herman Willem Daendels, stuck his stick at a point on the side of the Groot Postweg. That point became known as Kilometer Zero. Daendels was given a mission to defend Java from the British. One way was to build a postal highway that stretched from Anyer, West Java to Panarukan, East Java. Then Daendels ordered the then regent of Bandung, Wiranatakusuma, to build a city. That city is now known as Bandung. In 1906, the city of Bandung was determined as a Gemeente, or a centralized city, not only centralized in finance, but also granting the right to autonomy of the field of the government. Around the 1920s, while the construction of the city of Bandung was being active, they built a kind of elite housing on Pajajaran Street, as well as infrastructure such as city parks as urban expansion plans, where at the first they wanted to build Bandung as a garden city. When the power of the Dutch East Indies collapsed in the hands of the Japanese colonials in early 1942, the construction of the city of Bandung stopped. Instead, Bandung became a terrible place because it turned into a prison that took the freedom of its inhabitants. Then, after independence, after regional upheaval and political instability, after governing Asia-Africa Conference in 1955, Bandung reorganized the region so that in 1960, the city became the center of the provincial government. The government also began to build various facilities until it became the city of Bandung as it is today. That's my presentation for today. Sorry if there are wrong words and for my bad English. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Amelia. Your presentation is just 4 minutes effectively. Thank you. Well, the next presenter is Rani Ismawati. Rani, similar, your time also 5 minutes, please.
Okay, thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Hello everyone, I will talk about the history of the Van der Wijk Fort. Van der Wijk is fort that built in 1818 or the beginning of the 19th century, located in Gombong City, Kebumen, Central Java. Before becoming a fort in 1818, the fort was the trading office the Dutch closed. Then the fort was changed its function as function of the Dutch war again the Diponegoro Sultan in 1825, 1830. In 1833, the pavilion was abolished. The pavilion was the city of King Panjer district as the center. In 1844, the Van der Wijk fort was changed into defensive or the prepare for war with the Yogyakarta Sultan. In this year also, the fort was built in 1848. It was named Fort General Celsius with the name of Lieutenant General Defense David Celsius, the leader of the Dutch troops who fought in Gombong. In 1856, this fort was refunctioned as military school, Population School, or as school for elephant in Dutch East Indies. Later, name Fort Celsius was changed to Van der Wijk as from respect in Dutch military field. During the Japan occupation, Van der Wijk functioned as training ground for soldiers until the independence of Indonesia. The fort was used an army barrack until 1980. After the fort was converted into a residence for members of the Indonesia Army 1000. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Rani, it is enough for you? It is finished? Not yet. Okay, thank you, Rani, for your presentation. Please unmute your microphone. Okay, the next presenter. Oh, so sorry, that's the Amelia, right? Oh, the Rani Ismawati. Okay, the next presenter is Alpia and Agustin. Alpia, time is yours. Starting from now, please. Hello, Alpia.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
On cam, please.
In this, I'm on cam, Miss.
Okay.
Mister.
Okay, go ahead.
The Great Post Road. The Great Post Road is a road with a length of approximately 1,000 kilometers that stretch along the north of Java line from Anyer to Panarukan. The highway begins with the leadership of Marshal Herman William Daendels as governor of the Dutch Indies in 1809. It is called Jalan Raya Post because Daendels built a postal system in several areas that were traversed by development projects, so as to facilitate transportation using portal trains in ancient time. The purpose of contraction Jalan Raya Post is to facilitate communication between regions controlled by Daendels along the island of Java and as the fortress on the north coast of Java, and to defend the island of Java from British attack. Daendels need a strong and formidable military fleet. Even so, many people doubt the construction of the Jalan Raya Post masterpiece. The most prominent issues are genocide and forced labor. Both by Asfi Warman Adam in his writing in Temple magazine entitled Dendorf's Giant Work 2005. It is explained that the narrative is the opinion of Dendorf's political opponent that the colonial government had no money in development. Then Dendorf is said to have used the Japanese as unpaid laborers. Political opponent of Dendorf wrote that 12,000 workers died, including 15 in Megabendung. However, senior researcher Afi Arman Adam said it never further research. This is because there is no definite number of fiction. Most of the casually are written by political opponent of Dendorf. That's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Alfia. Your presentation, I think, just 2 minutes, right? Never mind, I think good idea. Well, the next presenter is Amelia P. Octavia. Hello, Amelia. Time is yours, please.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Let me present about ethical politics. Ethical politics or reciprocal politics is a progressive thought that the Dutch government has a moral obligation to improve the welfare of the people of the Dutch East Indies because it has provided prosperity for the people and the Kingdom of the Netherlands. This policy seems to have brought about such fundamental change in the colonial environment. But in this policy, there is more to promise than implementation. Then, what is the background of the emergence of this policy and what caused this ethical policy to fail in its implementation? Ethical politics is rooted in humanitarian issues as well as economic gains. This criticism were made in the novels of Max Havelaar and others, which later came to fruition. In 1899, Van Deventer, a legal expert who had lived in Indonesia, published an article entitled "In a Residual or Debt of Honor" in the Dutch journal De Gids. He said that the Dutch owed the Indonesian people a debt. This debt must be repaid by prioritizing the interests of the Indonesian people in colonial politics. Queen Wilhelmina announced a welfare investigation in Java, and this ethical police ethical police was officially ratified in 1892. Edinburgh became Minister of Colony Affairs. Edinburgh began to practice ethical politics. The Netherlands mentioned 3 principles that are considered the basis of the new policy: education, irrigation, and immigration. First, irrigation, prepare and repair irrigation and dams for agriculture purpose. Second, immigration. Java's population growth had a fundamental relationship with a low level of welfare, but the Dutch did not have a policy that could solve the problem. The only answer the Dutch gave was immigration from Java out of Java, a policy that was continued after Indonesian independence under the name transmigration. And then education. All ethical political advocates agree on increasing education for the Indonesian people, but there are 2 different schools of thought as to what kind of education and for whom. Snook Hurgons and the first director of ethical education, J.H. Abendanon, supports an elite approach. They want a more European-style education with Dutch as the language of instruction for the Western-influenced Indonesian elites, who can take much of the work that government employs to who is a Dutch national. Edinburgh and Governor General Van Schultz supported a more basic and practical education with local language as the language of instruction for groups that an elite approach is expected to produce leaders for the new Dutch Indonesian enlightenment era, while a populist approach is expected to contribute directly to welfare. One policy was implemented with sufficient funds, and none of them produced what their supporters wanted. During the implementation of this ethical policy, there were deviations carried out by Dutch officials. Following are the deviations of these deviations. First, irrigation. Irrigation was only intended for fertile lands for Dutch private plantation. Meanwhile, the people's property does not receive water from irrigation. And second, education. The Dutch government established school. Education is aimed at obtaining competent and inexpensive administrative staff. Education, which is open to all people, is only intended for the children of civil servants and those who can afford it. There is discrimination in education, namely teaching in class 1.
Okay,
schools.
Amelia.
Thank you.
Was over. I confused that there are two names of Amelia, right? Your name is Amelia P. Octavia, and then one again, purposely, Amelia Wungkul. Okay, I think it is the two names of Amelia. Okay, thank you for your presentation. Okay, the next presenter is Hani S. Hasana. Hani, time is yours, please.
Yes, Mister. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
I will talk about Inggit Ganassi history. Inggit Ganassi born of that 70 February 1888 in Kamasan Village, Banjaran, South Bandung. Inggit Ganassi, when a teenager, is beautiful and simple girl. When she was quite a young 20 years old, she married to Nata Atmaja. Nata Atmaja is working the resident office. But Inggit Ganassi wedding with Nata Atmaja did not last long and with divorce. The marriage again with a marriage who is a member Islamic now. Name is Haji Sanusi. Inggit Ganassi support her husband to organize and married Inggit Ganassi with Haji Sanusi harmonious relationship, but Inggit Ganassi it's often left Haji Sanusi, and on the 1923 they are divorced. And in the same year, firstly, on March 24, Inggit married with Sukarno, who is an active student Tekis Hugo School in Bandung and age 20 years old, and Inggit Ganassi 35 years old. In 1926, they bought a house on Seattle Road, previously and a house, and moved from place to place. Inggit Ganassi always supports Sukarno to finish his studies. By selling herbal medicine and face powder, Inggit Ganassi supports household economy. Inggit Ganassi is a loyal and fervent wife when Sukarno recharged because of activities at the National Party of Indonesia.
which was considered to threaten the stability of the Dutch West Indies and invested in Banca. Inggit Ganassi remains loyal and echoes the spirit to Sukarno. She is also a communication intermediate between Sukarno and activities national movement. She also praised to be able to send books to Sukarno in prison and prison. Inggit's loyalty is also proven when Sukarno was dumped in exile and the Flores and exile moved Bengkulu. In Bengkulu, Sukarno met Fatmawati. Fatmawati was daughter of Muhammadiyah figures, and Sukarno fall in love Fatmawati because Inggit Ganassi cannot provide offspring for Sukarno. Sukarno experimentation to marry with Fatmawati, but Inggit Ganassi chooses to divorce. In 1942, Inggit Ganassi is divorced Sukarno and returned to Bandung. In Bandung, Inggit Ganassi began selling herbal medicine and face powder. She did at age 96 on the death 13 April 1984. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Hani S. Hasana. About the Inggit Ganassi, right? Good. Okay, the next presenter is Laras Ciati. Laras, time issues also is 5 minutes, please.
Yes. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
I will present the title is Youth Pledge. The Youth Pledge is an independence movement carried out by Indonesian youth by declaring the promise of one homeland, one nation, and one language. In the history, the struggle of the Indonesian nation to free oneself from the shapeless colonialism, which prioritizes regional fanatism for 3 centuries, enter a new history with the rise of nation youth organization. The struggle at the first more culturally changed to the struggle that bring issues nationalism with more promote political and diplomacy. Recorded in 1915, standing a large number of youth organizations which are still regional in nature, such as Jong Java, Jong Celebes, Jong Ambon, Jong Sumatra Bon, Jong Islamitan Bon, Sekarukun, and Pemuda Kaum Betawi. The organization was regional and special groups. As for the PPPI, which was founded after finished the first Youth Congress, has a difference because the youth organization that consisting of the students from all over Indonesia. The characters are Sigit, Sugondo Jojo Puspito, Suwirjo, S. Rekso Diputro, Muhammad Yamin, Akagani, Tamzil, Sunarko, Sumanang, and Amir Sarifuddin. PPPI initiated the second Youth Congress. The Congress was held in three different buildings and divided in 3 meetings. The first meeting on Saturday, 27 October 1928 in the Catholic Gedung Building Jongalingan Bon. On that occasion, Sugondo hoped this Congress can strengthen the spirit of unity in the heart of young men. The event continued with a description Muhammad Yamin about the meaning of unity and relationship with youth. According to him, there are 5 factors can strengthen the unity of Indonesia, namely history, language, customary law, and education, and will as contained and read at the end of the Congress. Second meeting on Sunday, October 28, 1928 at the building of Scope discussing about the education. The two speakers, Purnawamelan and Sarmedi Mangun-Sarkoro, agrees that the children must receive national education. There must also be a balance between education at school and at home. A child must also educated democratically. Annexation scenario explain the importance of scouting cannot be separated from national movement. Scouting movement from an early age educating children discipline and independence as recorded in the struggle. Before Congress closed, played the song Indonesia Raya by Rudolf Supratman. Song was great with great joy by Congress participants. Okay, maybe.
Okay, this is finished.
Yes, finished.
Alright.
Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, thank you very much, Larasi Ati. And the last presenter is Nurul Istiqomah. Nurul, time is yours, please, in 5 minutes.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Here I will present in English a segment with title History of the Indonesian Flag. A flag is a rectangular or triangular piece of cloth or paper with various shapes and colors used as symbol of the state, association, banner, and identification that is found on a pole. Generally used symbolically to provide or signal or identification. Every country has an identification, one of which is marked with flag, just like Indonesia. The first flag of Indonesia is Sang Saka Merah Putih. The meaning of red symbolizes the core of the Indonesian people in fighting against invader, and white symbolizes the scarred intention of the Indonesian people in fighting for the country. Red and white flag is a symbol of the sovereignty of the Indonesian state, where the flag symbolizes the aspect of Indonesia after a long struggle against the invaders. Before colonialism, the history of the red and white flag was used by ancient empires of the time. The red and white flag was once used as the banner of the Majapahit Kingdom as a symbol of greatness in the 13th to 16th centuries. The use of the red and white flag in the Majapahit Kingdom is contained in a book by Empu Prapanca entitled Negara Kertagama, where in the book it said the flag is a sacred flag that is always used for big ceremonies of King Hayam Wuruk. Basic flag used by the Majapahit Kingdom. The red and white flag was also used by the Bugis-born Kingdom of South Sulawesi. Then in 1928, the red and white flag used by the ancient Kingdom of Indonesia was revived by students and nationalists of the early 20th century. The red and white flag was first sent by Mrs. Fatmawati, Insinyur Soekarno, who at the time Fatmawati mother was pregnant, her son Guntur Soekarno Putra. At this time, it was difficult to get red and white cloth, but thanks to the help of Shimizu, the person appointed by the Japanese government as intermediary for the Japanese-Indonesia negotiation, Fatmawati received a cloth and the official red and white Sang Saka flag flown on 17 August 1945. The first flag hoisted on August 17, 145, carried out by three figures who served as speed, flag bearers, and prop border. The figures were Abdul Latif Hendraningrat, Suhu Sastrokusumo, and S.K. Trimurti. Until now, the raising of the red and white flag was carried out by three students in the ceremony, usually two men as disseminator on broads, out by three students in the ceremony, usually two as disseminator and bearers, and one woman was job. This flag bearer was known as Paskibra or flag raising troop. The flag has its own prohibition, namely the flag must not touch the ground and cannot be exposed to rain. The flag is put on a pole with a minimum height of 5 meters and maximum 70 meters. The time for raising the flag is to be raised in the morning at sunrise and long again before. Flag raising is also not permitted at night. Red and white flag must be flown on August 17th. Raising of the red and white flag is usually accompanied by the anthem Indonesia Raya, which was composed by Rudolf Supratman. In addition, Mrs. Sud, the songwriter, also created a song entitled Berkibarlah Benderaku, which was created for the Indonesian flag. In addition, the red flag is also found only at half-mast on certain days, namely as a form of witness and condolence for Indonesian heroes. Thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, thank you very much, Nurul. Well, ladies and gentlemen, my student, we have listened about the student presentation, and I think Ibu Diani maybe will next making the brief comment related to the student presentation. Bu Diani, please, time is yours.
Thank you, Bapak Suwirta. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. It's been fifth meeting or sixth. Okay, I have some notes about your presentations. Maybe overall, I want to emphasize that each of you still stick to the notes. So we will remind you over and over again. Please try not to memorize everything. Instead, you read the text. Please understand what the textbook is and what the journal says about you are going to narrate us. So this is the verb. This is my notes about Akmal presentations, the first presenters. Okay, this is, okay, I want to know what do you mean about your title, Satay Building Point. So what do you want to say about your title exactly? Akmal, what do you mean about Satay Building Point? Is it sate or satay, Bapak Suwirta? If I'm not mistaken, President Obama has said that it's satay, but maybe some of us recognize that sate as satay, gitu. So, okay, Akmal, what do you mean about your title?
Oh, I
am satay.
Could you tell us a little bit more about your title? Because you said that this is about Satay Building Point. So what do you mean?
What is point? Akmal, what is point here? Satay is okay, building okay. What is point here? The meaning?
Point, yeah.
Oh,
exactly.
What
I'm trying to say. Point.
Since of building of gedung sate.
Yes, but
then,
the point is what the meaning of point in your PPT, in your PowerPoint?
Point, Sate Building Point.
Point is titik. What in the bahasa Indonesia, Akmal? What do you mean in the bahasa Indonesia? The title.
Poin-poin ininya, poin-poin apa namanya? Gedung satenya gitu dari
Oke, please
dari berdirinya,
berdirinya. Okay, thank you.
Because I thought that you are trying to say it's about the penangkal petir point. So I guess it's not. It wasn't about that penangkal petir, yeah, Sate Building Point. So it's just a random questions, but I guess I think you should know what are you really want to say about your story. So please, you shouldn't stick to the note. Yes, you should stick with the note and make sure you are already have the grand picture. I mean, what you are going to narrate or tell us. As always, read references that relate to your story, Akmal. Yeah. So when we have questions about that kind of random questions. For example, point, you can say by your own word, you have the meaning, you already have the meaning about what are you going to say about your title. Okay, Akmal? Okay, thank you with your presentation. And then the second presenters is Amelia Putri, if I'm not mistaken, yes, because we have two Amelias. So from my point of view, you can deliver your presentation quite well. So it's very natural from that. So did you notice where is the 0 kilometer of Bandung? Did you recognize that place? Where is the 0 kilometer of Bandung? Have you already came?
No, I never visit that kilometer 0. Yes.
Okay, you haven't visited that place. Okay. Well, maybe in some other times, Bapak Suwirta, we can take the students to go around and visit 0 kilometer in Bandung. Okay, thank you for your presentation. So we would like to say that we do really appreciate your effort, Amelia. So keep practicing, and then you can practice your presentation with the mirror, for example. And for the third presenters, Rani Ismawati. Okay, I have some recommendation for you, Rani. Try to tell the story beyond the text. So I'm quite sure that you are still looking at the text. So the history is beyond the text. So the history is about how you give the meaning, how you give the interpretation about the story or the event. So yes, you shouldn't have to always see the text. So the history, I mean, is not merely about the text. Everyone can give the interpretation regarding their understanding and their read and all the preferences. Okay, for the fourth presenters is Alfia. Okay, please do practice the vocab and recite the vocab over and over again. So it seems that you have a lot of doubt about your vocab and how you deliver your pronunciation. So it's okay. For some, okay. Furthermore, you are still stick with the notes. So I want to ask, how long you did the research, Alvia? How long you did the research? Do you have certain time to did the research?
2 days.
2 days. Okay. So what did you do?
I read some book with an article from the Google.
From Google's article from Google's. Okay, we have some big issue maybe because some of you still dependent on Google, the article on the website, but it's better for you to read the books or the journals that Bapak Suwirta always recommend to you. So it's validate and more reliable despite the article in the webs or the blog spots. So Wikipedia, we are not suggest you to read Wikipedia. So try to see other resources and seek for other preferences. Okay, thank you, Alfia. Okay, for the fifth presenters, is it Amelia Putri? Or else? Okay, maybe. Okay, Amelia, I would like to know what do you think about the politics of ethics? Because I believe that you have already read some of preferences. So I would like to know about your point of view. What do you think about the politics of ethics? Is it advantage, or how about the advantage or the disadvantage, Amelia?
Amelia, please answer Budiani question.
Could you tell us a little bit more about the politics of ethics based on your preferences, based on your journals or books?
Hello, Amelia.
Sorry, Miss. My internet unstable.
Okay, it's okay. What do you think about the politics of ethics?
Politic ethics.
Okay, based on preferences, based on your journals or books. Okay, tell us a little bit.
Ethical politics. It's reciprocal politics is progressive through the Dutch government has a moral obligation to improve the welfare of the people of the Dutch East Indies because it has provided prosperity for the people and the Kingdom of the Netherlands.
Okay, thank you. Is it enough? Okay, thank you, Amelia, because I just curious about how you can deliver all the materials or all your preferences so far. So it's good, quite good. So okay, please for next time, for the next presentation, learn to deliver your story without looking at the text, yeah, because you can do it. So, because you can do it. Okay, the sixth presenter is Hani SH. Okay, I would like to know, but what was the prominent role of Inggit Ganarsi during the Sukarno's national movement, based on your understanding? Should I repeat
quickly respond, Hani Esasana, please.
My internet, Mr.
Okay, unstable connections. We'll repeat the questions. What was the prominent role of Inggit Ganarsi during Sukarno's national movement, based on your understanding? Based on your understanding. So what kind of the role, what kind of the prominent role of Inggit Ganarsi? What is the most important role of Inggit Ganarsi during Sukarno's national movement? So what's
Inggit Ganarsi support Sukarno for national movement. Inggit Ganarsi support Sukarno for national movement and
okay. Come again?
Yes.
Okay. Is it something more about that? Is it enough?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. That was the importance of reading. So you can manage and you can tell the story about your story by your own word. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So I think it's seventh presenter, Laras Citra. Okay, is it Laras Citra here? Okay, Laras Citra. Okay, hello. As far as I observe, you still have dependency on notes. So please try deliver your presentation without looking at the note. Yeah, build your confidence. So it's not merely about how you can memorize your text, memorize everything, but it depends on your understanding regarding your preferences and the text. So yeah, you can improve your skill by practicing with your peer, yeah, with your friends, or even simply talking with the mirror. So it's just a simple trick that I had already take when I was young. Okay, thank you, Laras. Nice effort. So, is it your story about the youth pledge? Yeah.
Yes, Miss.
Okay, so I would like to know, nowadays the spirit of youth pledge can be implemented or conducting in what form or what kind of activity? Is it still relevant? The spirit of youth pledge can be implemented or conducting in what kind of activity? What do you think? Is it the youth? Is it the youth pledge still relevant? If
Laras, answer please.
okay, is it relevant with day-to-days?
The activity relevant from the youth pledge, Miss?
The spirit of youth pledge, is it still relevant? Is it still relevant from your understanding? Okay. So how I'm going to say this? Okay, is it the spirit of youth pledge? Okay, can be implemented or conducting in what form? What kind of activity? The spirit of youth pledge.
Implement to the spirit of study, maybe.
Spirit of study, okay.
Yes.
Spirit of study, okay, thank you. Maybe you can elaborate more about the spirit of youth pledge, because it can be more, can be implemented and it can be conducting in very kind of forms, in many kinds of form of activities for today's. Okay, the last but not least, Nurul, I have some notes about you that you still stick to the note. So please tell the story without looking at the text. So, and then manage your speed carefully when presenting. Okay. Okay. Nurul, did you have any experience as a Paskibraka or as local Paskibra? Pasukan pengibar bendera? Did you have any experience about that?
Terus replying. So
here, because I see that you have some great interest on flags, so I assume that you one of the member of the Paskibra is just a random thought about Nurul. Okay, Nurul, practice more and more.
Until now, the raising of the red and white flag was carried out by 3 students in the ceremony, usually 2 men disseminator and bearers and 1 woman was job as flag bearer.
Well, my question is, did you have any experience as a Paskibra? Because you raised about the flag, the meaning of the flag.
Do you understand Budiani question, Nurul?
Okay, it's okay.
You
okay.
actively in Paskibra or not, Nurul?
Oh, it's okay.
Okay.
Okay, it's okay. Okay, last but not least, keep practicing ya Pak ya. So far, keep practicing and please improve your confidence more. So, okay, thank you very much Bapak Suwirta.
Okay, thank you Ibu Diani for the kind of comment, suggestion, and recommendation. Nurul, please listen about Bu Diani's suggestion. You also always said the color, color is different color. Color red and white. Nurul, hello Nurul. Did you listen my voice, Nurul? You didn't understand. Okay, I would like to comment also one by one. Firstly, Akmal. Hello, Akmal. I think not only to Akmal, but also to others. I would like to ask you what the kind of standard book, firstly, and then I would like also what is making the question for you. Akmal, hello, Akmal.
Yes, Mr.
Okay, what kind of standard book did you use related to the Sate breeding point?
I use only little, Mister.
little to me, please. Atau not little should be standard book, right? You should write about the Haryoto Puntos book or the history of West Java, the history of Bandung City, okay? Not little article in the journal. I think it is not relevant, okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Mister.
Secondly, could you explain me what the main function the satire breeding in the time of Dutch colonial government, the Japanese occupation, and the Indonesian Republic? Atma, do you understand what my question? Little, sir.
Not understand, little.
Okay, please elaborate your article in 2 pages, but should understand about the satire breeding. I think not point. Please, you consult with Ibu Diani. What the meaning your title? I don't understand. Satire breeding point. Okay. Okay. Next, Amelia. I mean Amelia about the ethical politics. Hello, Amelia. The ethical politics.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. What kind of standard book did you use related to your topic?
Sejarah Indonesia Modern 1200 sampai 2008.
The authors?
Merle, Calvin, Rick,
Good.
Clef.
Okay, good. Please you read Reclep and others. Okay, not only Reclep but also others such as I think ethical politics. There's the Robert Vanille, the emerging of modern elite in Indonesia and others. Okay, in order you can understand about what really happened with the ethical politics in Indonesia in early 20th century. Okay. Okay, my question, Amelia, as you know that ethical politics that consists of 3 methods, right? The breeding infrastructure, in this case irrigation, and that's the people movement, particularly from Jawa population to the outer Jawa, rurally population, particularly to Sumatra, to Kalimantan, to Sulawesi, and others. And thirdly, about the education. Okay, according to your opinion, whether this policy, ethical policy, be continued or not by the Indonesian government now?
To be continued because
brief explain.
Now government
Okay, Mila, please you read the Reclep book, right? For example, okay, the building the infrastructure, there's not only irrigation, but also the highway, okay, the harbor, the railway, the airport, and so on and so forth. Okay. But I think what is the emigration, the people movement from Java to others, I think not successfully. Most of people, Indonesian people, concentrate in Java until now, right? More than 60% Indonesian people concentrate in Java. So it is meaning this continue related to the ethical policy, okay? And that also related to education. Education is not yet become the priority in our government, okay? The priority still maybe the economy, the what is security, and so on and so forth. So I think what is the government, Indonesian government should be learn more related to the ethical politics in the time of the Dutch colonial government. Okay, Amelia, please read the Reclep book in order you understand about the ethical politics. Okay. Next, Rani Ismawati. Hello, Rani.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, sir. Okay. Rani, about the history of Van der Wijk-Poort. Okay, what kind of standard book did you read related to your topic?
Because the source of very limited, sir. But the
standard book, right? Not article, because article is enrichment, just add information for you. Should be standard book. So it is meaning you should at least read the Reclep book, the history of Central Java, the history of Gombong, Regency, and so on and so forth. Okay. Okay.
I have several books, sir.
Pardon? Sorry?
I took several book sources.
Okay, not clear your point, I think. Okay, the second the next question. Okay, you said about in your PowerPoint Diponegoro Sultanate. I think Diponegoro not as sultan. He is as prince, okay? Prince, not sultan. Pangeran Diponegoro, nggih. Sanes sultan, nggih, Mbak. Yes, sir. Okay. And the last question, could you explain me the correlation between this port in Gombong in the time of Dutch colonial government, and there's many soldiers, many army in Indonesian military comes from Banyumas area, Banyumas Regency, such as General Sudirman, Gatot Subroto, Ahmad Yani, and now Prabowo Subianto, Gatot Nurmantio. It comes from Banyumas Regency near with the Gombong. Could you explain the relationship maybe between the what is military port in Gombong and yes, many Indonesian military comes from Banyumas Regency. Rani. Didn't understand, sir. So sorry. Okay, please read the standard book, right? In order you can understand about the what is history of Van der Wijk port in Gombong, in Central Java, because there's many Indonesian army, Indonesian military comes from people of Banyumas, Purworejo, Purwokerto, and so on and so forth in Central Java, right? Okay, next, Alfia and Agustin. Alfia, hello. Hello, Alfia. Okay. Similar with others. What kind of standard book did you use related to your topic, the Great Post Road? Hello, Alfia.
The Great Post Road, kumpulan tulisan warisan budaya dan sejarah di sepanjang jalan raya pos.
Okay. I think I read about your sources. There's the Angga in Indrawati, right? But please, you use the standard book, Reclap books, maybe biography of Daedalus, Herman Willem Daedalus biography. Patrick Ray also wrote about the Daedalus role in the time of in the 19th century. Okay, not only Angga, because Angga Indrawati, I think not as historian. Okay, please, in order you understand about the Great Post Road. Okay. The last question, as you know that the road from Anyar to Panarukan, from Anyar to Jakarta, you said from Jakarta to Cirebon. It is meaning from Jakarta to Bekasi, Kerawang, Cikampek, and Cirebon. No, that's what is. So the direction of the Daedalus road is not from Jakarta to Cirebon, you know, but when the direction of the Daedalus road from Jakarta to Alfia, do you understand my question? Okay. It is not only for Alfia, okay? So the post road made in by Daedalus, the direction is not from Jakarta to Cirebon directly, because north coastal of Java, they are occupied by the British Army. Because of that, the direction from Anyer, Jakarta, and then to Bogor, to Cianjur, to Bandung, to Sumedang, and to Cirebon. So please imagine, not similar with the highway now. Different between the road made in by Daedalus and the highway now from Jakarta to Cikampek. It is what is not legacy of the Daedalus road. Okay, should be understand, including also Alfia. Okay, please your PowerPoint should be ensure that the direction of the Daendels Road is not from Jakarta to Cirebon directly, but Jakarta to Bogor, to Cianjur, to Bandung, to Sumedang, and to Cirebon. Okay. Okay. The next, Amelia with the title of Bandung in the past. Amelia, hello. Hello.
Hello, Mr.
Okay. What kind of standard book did you use related to the Bandung in the past?
I read a book that written by Haryoto Kunto, and the title is Wajah Bandung Tempo Dulu.
Good. Others?
No, I just read that only.
Please you read also the historian. What is overall about the maybe history of West Java, history of Bandung City, and others. Okay, because it is very important for you in order you understand about the how Bandung in the past perspective. Okay, okay. The next question: what are the critical events in Bandung beside the Asia Africa Conference? Amelia. Hello, Amelia. What are the critical events in Bandung beside the Asia Africa Conference?
Bandung Lautan Api, and then there's so many.
What in English? Bandung Lautan Api? BLA. No. What in English? Bandung Lautan Api. Please you ask to Mbah Google. Okay, you should read about the what is John Erskine, right? John Erskine, Bandung in the early revolution. It's the good book, the standard book, Bandung in the early revolution. They are talking about the Bandung Lautan Api. Okay, so what in English Bandung Lautan Api? Okay, others beside Bandung Lautan Api? What critical events in Bandung? One again. I'm studying Snoopy, sir. Good. Amelia, what other critical event besides Bandung Lautan Api, the Asia Africa Conference? Okay, please you read about the Rick Clapp book and John Ismail book. Okay, in order you understand about how Bandung in the past. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. The next, Hani S. Hasana. Hello, Hani. Hello, Hani. My Hani. Hello, Hani. Are you here, Hani? Do you listen my voice, Hani? If you don't listen my question, I will reduce your point, okay? Your score. Hello, Hani. Hani S. Hasana. Okay, you talk about the Inggit Garnasi, but don't understand about the Inggit Garnasi, right? I think it is a good Ibu Diani suggestion. Please you read more related to the Inggit Garnasi so that you can understand. There's the biography, of course, there's the novel, but based on the historical text. Written by Ramadan K. Miharja, Ku Antar ke Gerbang Kemerdekaan. Okay. Should be what is read about the many books related to the Inggit Garnasi. Okay, Hani, did you listen my point, my question, my comment? Okay, I will what is reduce your score, okay, because you didn't reply my question. Next, Laras Siati. Laras.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, about the youth pledge. Okay, I think it is very relevant. Okay, but okay, you said about the Sekarukun, the young Sekarukun. Okay, why the young generation in Sundanese area claim they ourselves as Karukun, not as the young Jawa, young Sumatra, young Celebes, and so on and so forth. But from West Java generation, they claim we are Sekarukun. What the meaning of Sekarukun and why the West Java generation, young generation, call they ourselves as the Sekarukun? Laras. Do you understand my question, Laura?
Yes, understand, but I don't read
Okay.
this.
Okay, please you read about the standard book. Please you read about the Kate Polster, okay? Kate Polster wrote a book about the Sumpah Pemuda, about the Youth Pledge, okay? Including also my article in the journal, the meaning of Youth Pledge. Why the Sundanese young generation call their ourselves as the Sekarukun. Do you know Sekarukun, the meaning of Sekarukun? Sekar is flower, right? Rukun is living in harmony, tolerance, happiness, and so on and so forth. Okay, but why not the young Sunda? But Abdi Mati Sekarukun, Sanesti Sunda, yeah, I think it should be explained. Okay, why the delegation from the West Java generation, young generation, called themselves as the Sekarukun, not the young Betawi, young Javanese, young Sumatranese, and so on and so forth. Okay. Okay, Laras. Next, in the second point, the third point of the Youth Pledge, state that the young generation should be upholding the national language, namely Indonesia. In Indonesian language, menjunjung bahasa persatuan, bahasa Indonesia. What does it mean? What the meaning that in the third statement, the young generation said, we will uphold the Bahasa Indonesia as unity language. What the meaning? Menjunjung bahasa persatuan, upholding the unity language. According to your opinion, Lara.
The meaning is for the unifier, your Indonesian from the regional.
Okay, Laras. It is meaning upholding the unity nation. It is meaning that the Indonesian language, not just one language for Indonesian people. Okay. So Indonesian language just as the main, the tool for communication, for unity of Indonesia. But other languages such as mother tongue, local language, English language also can use for the Indonesian people. So in this context, the Youth Pledge not said just one language, Indonesian language. No, menjunjung bahasa persatuan, meaning there are many languages should be mastery by Indonesian people. Okay, not only the bahasa Indonesia, but also mother tongue, local language, English, Arabic, Mandarin, and so forth. Okay, Laras? Do you understand?
Yes, sister.
Okay. Please read about standard book related to the Youth Pledge, of course. Okay, Reclap books, and then Catch Polster, my article in the journal. Please you searching to Mbah Google, to atas Google. Andi Swirtas article related to the Sumpah Pemuda. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, the last presenter, Nurul Istiqomah. Nurul, hello.
Yes, Mr.
Okay, Nurul, please you answer my question. Okay, what kind of standard book did you use related to the history of Indonesian flag? Hello, Nurul. If you don't answer my question, I will reduce also your score. Okay. Okay, Nurul.
And signal.
Ada? Sorry.
The signal is bad.
The title or the author? What the title? What the author? Who the author?
The result I took for the material of this presentation was from the book Pancasila Spiritualisme on by Foky Fuad Wasid Atmaja.
You didn't understand you didn't understand my question. You didn't understand Ibu Diani's suggestion. You talking about the red and white flag, okay? Flag, okay? So you should be read about more book related to the bendera merah putih. Not read about the Pancasila. Not read about the other topic. You talking about the bendera merah putih, red and white flags should be concentrated in that book. Okay, please you searching standard book related to the history of red and white flag. Okay. Okay, the last question. As you know, the flags of Singapore also red and white. The flags of UMNO, United Malay Organization in Malaysia, also red and white. The question is, what's different between the flag of Singapore and the flag of Indonesia, and the flag of UMNO and the flag of Indonesia? What kind of difference? Nurul. Particularly with the Singapore. The flag of Singapore also red and white, but what different with Indonesian flag? Hello, Nurul. Didn't understand, sir. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, my student, I think I suggest you, as Budiani also suggest and recommend you, please read more book, okay? Particularly standard book. Yeah, it is very important for history student reading more book related to standard book. You should be identify some standard book. Reflect book, Sejarah Nasional Indonesia, Indonesia dalam Arus Sejarah, and so on and so forth, related to the Indonesian modern history, okay? Because you are a student of history, not as the mathematics student, not as the management student, and so on and so forth. Should be aware, should be understand about your topic, okay? If your presentation is similar with non-student of history, I think you fail in choosing the department, okay? And please you one again reading related to the standard book in talking about your topic. Okay, I think it is our lecture today, and I think it is enough. And let's ending our lecture today by saying together Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Very much. We will switch our lecture from Zoom meeting to WhatsApp group. Please ensure when you write about the brief comment in WhatsApp group, please ensure that your name should be written in full name, particularly in the last name, okay? Last name should be written in the full name, not abbreviated. My name is not Andi S because I'm not son of Tukang S, okay? My name is Andi Suwirta, okay? Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss. Meeting. Okay, thank you.
Sir, thank you, Miss.